Hope you're enjoying the music right now on Gold FM. Only the classic hits, especially if you're spending your time at home or around the office. I certainly hope you're taking it easy and enjoying the music coming your way. Well, I got a whole lot more to keep you moving and to keep you going right up until you reach knock-off time. I'm Kara. Join me every weekday from 2 to 7 on The Ride, only on Gold FM.
जहाँ हो प्यार का बसेरा और रिश्तों की खुशबू, वो है आपका अपना घर संसार. Join me on घर संसार, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. only on Radio Fiji 2.
Tonight, Climate Change Summit calls on polluting nations to clean up their act. Fijian government making progress in completing the groundwork for elections. And police complaint filed in relation to the death of a worker at the FSC mill in Lautoka. Good evening, I'm Jackie Spade and you're watching FBC News. Fiji is a small nation that can't fight bigger polluting nations on its own. Those were the sentiments of Prime Minister Vorengen Bainimarama while opening the second Building Resilience on Climate Change Summit in Nandi this morning. Akosita Tale has more.
Fiji is not an industrialized country with high carbon emissions. We are, however, paying the price for someone else's actions.
To them, we say, we didn't cause this, you did. For heaven's sake, face up to your responsibilities and do what the scientists say you need to do. Stop talking and start taking appropriate and decisive action.
Bainimarama says there's been a lack of leadership by the Australian government in championing the cause of the small island states.
So it's been very disappointing for Pacific Islanders to see Kevin Rudd and Australia generally back away from the tough emission targets that were once envisaged before it became obvious that these came with a political cost.
Despite our size, the Prime Minister says we can still take charge and influence international community rather than waiting for them to act.
The government is committed to meeting at least 90% of our total energy requirements through renewable resources. Already 60% of our energy needs are being met from renewable energy now that the Nandaribatu hydroelectric scheme is online.
Bainimarama also says there is a lamentable lack of political will by the polluting nations to take the tough decisions needed to reduce carbon emissions. Akosita Tale, FBC News.
The summit brings together stakeholders and the community to identify key areas to combat climate change. It's intended to build Fiji's ability to effectively address the challenges faced by everyday Fijians. Akosita Tale again.
One of the most critical areas is Narikoso in Kandabu and Vunindongoloa in Sabu-Sabu. Villages here already need to be resettled. However, there is one other, as yet unnamed village that's not even located along the coast.
We've been given one a few days ago that they need some assistance as well. So you can see that climate change is not only posing challenges to islands, but also to our communities that lives in the hinterlands and the interior of the main islands.
Nandi has been one of the areas most affected by extreme weather. Events now working on diverting the Nandi River to cope with future events and reduce the potential for disaster.
Purely because they've seen the wrath of climate change. You know, with the flooding 2 years ago, it has been an issue that needs to be properly addressed.
The Fijian government is focused on meeting at least 90% of total energy requirements through renewable sources. The summit ends on Friday. Akosita Tale, FBC News.
Progress is being made on various fronts in the lead-up to elections next year. Attorney General Aisaid Qayyum says they're working on a number of developments that need to be in place before the September polls. Apisal Hamidoka reports.
For the last few months, there has been a lot of activity in relation to the elections. Apart from the legal framework, the requirements of the Elections Office are also being addressed. In this regard, the Election Needs Assessment team have completed their reports.
We were expecting one report, but we've received two. One that has been put together by the Commonwealth, and one that has been put together by the EU and the New Zealand Elections Office. They've combined theirs. So we received that. We are yet to study them, but we'll be having meetings on them. But the whole point of having the needs assessment team was to have one report. So I understand that they may be amalgamating them. So once that is amalgamated, then it will be prudent for us to make a comment there.
The registration of Fiji citizens overseas has been on the cards for a while. Sayed Qayyum says they're almost ready.
Yes, we'll be making that announcement very soon in terms of how that process will be undertaken.
The Bainimarama government has committed to introducing new decrees to administer elections and public offices. This has taken a backseat until the Constitution is ready.
You know that our focus at the moment is on the Constitution, to have that finalized, get the translation done. And then, of course, there are two other pieces of law that are related to the Constitution, which is the Code of Conduct for Public Office Holders and also the Freedom of Information laws.
The new Constitution is expected to be ready towards the end of the month. Apisolome Doka, FBC News.
The Fiji Sugar and General Workers Union has lodged a complaint with the Fiji Police Force regarding the death of one of its members at the Lautoka sugar mill 2 weeks ago. Union General Secretary Felix Anthony says they want a full investigation into the death, which they believe could have been avoided had the FSC followed all safety procedures.
We believe that the problem existed for a long while in the mill. Workers were aware of it. They made FSC management aware of it, but no action was taken. We have reported to the Director of Criminal Investigations for a police investigation into the death.
FSC Executive Chair Abdul Khan preferred not to comment. Police spokesperson Atunaisa Sokomori has confirmed that a complaint was lodged at the Lautoka police station and investigation is underway. After the break, Chinese culture ministers' visit strengthens bilateral relations.
Nisambula binaka oya wone kamanalangi oni nandorungo diao mai na diwa kina rua na bisinga mai na moniti kina bagarumbuka na Radio Fiji wana ndome biti bongani bianyanu na makatalenga na bengo na sasibiani na tinna kaloka na bembongi ni bukilulu kena bima mani walu na bembongi ni bakarawai mai na mbuza ni balu ninge namaka.
Bula, I'm Wame. Join me every weekday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on The Center Show with classic hits from the 70s as well as the 80s right here on Gold FM.
Welcome back. You're watching FBC News. China's Culture Minister Kai Wu is leading a Chinese delegation on a one-day visit to Fiji. They met the Minister for Education Felipe Mbole this morning. The aim of the visit is to sign a memorandum of agreement to strengthen bilateral relations between Fiji and China. There are also plans to set up cultural centers in both countries.
That is the framework with which we are going to operate in our cultural interactions between the two countries, Fiji and China. And there's a lot of items in that memorandum of understanding.
Kai Wu says since the establishing of diplomatic relations in 1975, the two countries have enjoyed smooth development in all relations. A 17-year-old Queen Victoria school student charged with arson in the fire at a school dormitory has been released on bail by the Nausori Magistrates Court. The accused appeared before Magistrate Walleen George and was released on $1,000 bail. The student is alleged to have been unhappy with one of his friends and set fire to his suitcase, which spread to the rest of the dormitory. QVS's Rewa dormitory that accommodates 40 students was not insured. The case has been referred to the Nausori High Court on the 21st of this month. Eid celebrations were held at the Fiji National University campus in Nasinu this morning. The events was organized by the Students Association guests spoke of the need to care for the unfortunate, an important aspect of the Islamic faith.
Students and guests were reminded to appreciate and recognize the lives of those who lack the basics.
So the concept of zakat is a due you pay. So any assets you have, any monies that you have that is not tainted by any debt, you pay 2.5 cents in a dollar, and you give it to the poor.
Your prayer, the prayer that you have seen being attended by hundreds, if not thousands of Muslims throughout Fiji, is not accepted if you don't pay your due to the poor.
The Attorney General says Fiji is blessed in that we have freedoms which other nations are struggling for.
Fiji, we are very, very fortunate that we have these colors of activities and festivities and people that we can celebrate with each other without perhaps the prohibitions that many other countries have.
Wealth, the Islamic teaching is the more you give, God will give you more. The same rule applies for knowledge.
We have planned to establish spiritual centers or chapels on each campus, which would be space used by students on a booking basis to run their own religious or spiritual activities.
Celebrations were attended by students of FNU and secondary schools from the Nasinu area. Apisolo Medoka, FBC News.
Domestic carrier Pacific Sun says serving remote islands isn't an easy business. With its growing fleet and the demands of landing on remote airstrips, company manager Shanaz Voss says it takes cooperation with stakeholders to maintain services. Ritika Pratap reports.
Apart from regular services to Lambasa and Savu-Savu, Pacific Sun flies to 6 other island destinations. None of them have modern technology to assist with landing.
We operate to some very remote airstrips, Rotuma being one. So it's not just the airstrip itself, it's the distance, and a 2.5-hour flight on a very small aircraft isn't exciting for anyone.
Shanaz Voss says oftentimes the weather can dictate whether services will be provided to some of the remote islands.
The airstrips in the Lau group, Vanuatu is just a one-way strip for us. You know, you can only take off and land in one direction, and weather does play a very huge role in flight cancellations. And I mean, we invariably don't get all the information that we need from the other end, and so we end up getting there and then having to, circle and return to Suva or Nandi.
According to Voss, flying to Outer Island isn't just a matter of getting in the plane and setting off. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scene.
On that basis, but it's challenging. It's challenging, and I think I also feel for AFL. It's not easy to keep these strips maintained. We only do once a week services there. So, but again, it's a very vital link. And we continue to do it in partnership with government.
Pacific Sun will lease a new ATR aircraft from Singapore next April, increasing both domestic and regional flights. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
And we join Jamie now with sports. So what does the new week have for us?
Naka Jackie, well, after the weekend round of BOG soccer action, we have the latest pool standings, and FBC Sports speaks with an adamant Lambasa coach out to prove critics wrong. Also up ahead, national athletics team, youngest to be assembled, but don't let their age fool you. That and more coming up.
Bola, oya wasala bilawa. Do pata kia o mena diwa kina tini karona kaloko na single level ni moniti kina wagarumbuka. Kako ni valatana no musini sari na kaisa moriando loloma leone vani ni nau om gori ke de mena diwa kina tini karona kaloko na single level ni moniti kina wagarumbuka and Bula FM number 2 and sere.
How would you like to spend your morning? You could spend your morning like this. Or you could spend it like this.
Tune in to the Morning Ride every weekday morning from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. right here on Today FM, Today's Hit Music.
Welcome back to FBC Sports. In the Ink Mobile Battle of the Giants, defending champions Ba have become the first team to qualify for the semi-finals after winning its 2 matches, while places for the other 3 semi-finalists are yet to be secured. Ba leads Pool A with 6 points. Suba is second with 3, while Nandunga and Nandi are tied with a point each. Any of the 3 remaining teams could end up in second place, depending on how the final pool matches proceed. In Pool B, Lambasa is undefeated and leads the pack with 6 points. Lautoka and Rewa sit second and third with 3 points each. Navo is the only team yet to get a point, but remains in the run for the semi-final. The BOG resumes at Govind Park in Ba on Friday. Just like Ba football, Lambasa has 6 points in the bag following 2 strong performances in the Battle of the Giants first round at Subrel Park. A straightforward approach by new coach Johnny William is driving the Bambasing Alliance and giving them the confidence to break a 15-year drought in the BOG. Elena McDonald reports.
Through Sandeep Nair with a header, and that will be the Balai Tonga.
Tournaments almost always brings out the best in teams. It's the case for Lambasa this year, which has managed to prove critics wrong and show how they've been able to overcome all odds.
As a coach, I like criticism. If you go into the Bible, it says that with every mountain there's another better thing at the side of it. And I believe that every criticism, I take it as positive. Whatever comes, I take it as a positive criticism and build the team upon that criticism.
Camaraderie is already beaming within the red and whites. And come Friday, it'll be interesting to see what tricks the local with their overseas teammates will conjure up.
A good combination going, they've played together many years, and that's all we build on. We just build on fitness. They know the game. With a few finer points that we touch up, I think we'll be a better side next week on Friday.
Lambasa last won the BOG in 1997. Their closest attempt since was last year, where they lost to eventual winners Ba 4-2 from penalty kicks. Like every other team, they'll be going back to the drawing board this week, especially with competition so closely knit this year. Elena McDonald, FBC Sports.
With preparations for the Rugby League World Cup heating up, Fiji Mbati officials have stepped up their pursuit of NRL players in Australia, and they hope to leave no stones unturned as they aim for a successful outing this October in England. Talendao Dakadaka reports.
Only 2 months out till the start of the Rugby League World Cup. These ruggers are part of the wider selection base of players in the Fiji Mbati squad, which coach Rick Stone has eyed for the tournament. Stone and his officials were also able to hold talks with most of the NRL players in Australia and discuss their eligibility.
We had a meeting on the 8th on the Wednesday at Mount Pritchard in Sydney. We had 32 players present. There were a few NRL players for the likes of Lote Tungiri, West Ngama, Semiran Randra, Etanambuli, Marika Korindete, Tangele and Yarabo. There were the few names that attended the meeting in Mount Pritchard.
It was a successful discussion altogether. Players were briefed on procedures to be taken care of regarding their eligibility.
The issue that we discussed was getting the eligibility, getting the playing preferences for those who have played NRL games, and actually it was a night of providing them with information in regards to the World Cup.
With the NRL competition still underway in Australia, officials are wary of the injury risks that could prevent our star players from featuring in the World Cup.
We want to remain open with our options on this area because there's bound to be injuries or someone could not travel for some reason. So there's quite a lot of issues to take into account.
Fiji will need all the big guns in the side to reproduce the same heroics that saw us reach the semi-finals of the 2008 World Cup. Talendo Dakadaka, FBC Sports.
Milo Kachi Rugby has produced some of the country's biggest rugby stars, and this year's event will see 30 schools participating. Major sponsor Nestle Fiji has increased its sponsorship for the 4-day event, which will be held from the 20th to the 23rd of this month. The tournament is expected to be held at the ANZ Stadium in Lauvala. National Athletics coach Gabriel Ingoro believes that the 25-member team to the Pacific Mini Games will prove a lot of critics wrong. Despite most of the athletes being in secondary school, Athletics Fiji are confident of a high medal haul in Wallace and Fortuna. Shelvin Chand has more.
The average age of Fiji's athletics team is about 20. The question that's been asked is, can these athletes hold of competition from athletic powerhouses New Caledonia and Papua New Guinea?
Honestly speaking, we have a very young team for this year, and on the other hand, I should say that we have a very young but quite interesting team that we've got for the Pacific Games this year. And believe you me, we are going to turn heads. We have a very young team but quite talented.
For the coach, the medals are secondary. He wants his athletes to compete and better their performance.
I'm not targeting as how many medals we're going to win. My basic goal for the team this year is to better our performance for the 2009 mini games in Cook Islands. So basically we've seen the results there. So I've told the athletes, whatever you do, we better our performance then, and whatever you get and achieve from the games is icing on the cake.
Now the wait is for Leslie Copeland and Manuve Tambakaudoro to return from the World Championships before athletics names its captain for the mini games.
We haven't decided on the captain yet, because on the 16th, which is next week, when they come in for our final team training together, when everybody's in Suva for our last 2 weeks train together in Suva, only probably then, when those two come back again from the World Championships, then we will decide for our team captains.
The mini games will provide a good testing ground for Athletics Fiji as they gear up for the bigger Pacific Games in Papua New Guinea 2 years from now. Shalvin Chan, FBC Sports.
That is your Monday Night Sports. Jack is up next with business.
Westpac Bank says its scholarship scheme for women has been a success this year. Out of 400 applications, 6 successful candidates were awarded this morning.
The Westpac Women in Education grant has been running for 2 years, with the number of applicants increasing every year. Participants had to write an essay explaining what they are doing to make a difference in their communities and why.
UNESCO recently claimed in their research that if all children in developing countries such as Fiji completed schooling and achieved even the most basic of education, world poverty would reduce by 12%.
Basenai Lauta, who won an education grant of $3,500, helps unfortunate students in her area. She and 4 other women in her community in Daumbati have been helping children who aren't in school.
I saw kids not attending classes at the right time, and that motivated me to help them, because most of them come from families that, what should I say, have low-income earners.
34-year-old Mary Blakelock is a teacher. She's been taking time out to help children with her mother, who is the principal at Bishop Campton Primary in Tadirua.
She asked me if I can come over to the school and help out with children that are being brought back to school, children who were out of school and have been brought back to school by their ACAP program under OSA. So they were brought back, but the teachers were having problems getting them to go along with the rest of the children in their classes, since they have problems with literacy.
The theme for Westpac's education grant is empowering tomorrow's women. Wasita Koti Wasawasa, FBC News.
Time for weather now. Jen, how's it looking?
Dull, Jackie, literally. There are clouds all over the map, with the only sun in Lambasa. Where's that sun? Here it is. And that was during the morning, before the northern town eventually succumbed to periods of cloudiness. 4 centers are on 28 degrees today. 26 in Savo is the lowest, and Lambasa is the warmest at 32. Tomorrow should see fewer clouds on the map. Suva will be the exception, while Savo is expected to see rain in the afternoon. Southeast winds are set at 10 to 15 knots, and it should be a perfect day for sailing, as the Weather Office has forecast moderate seas. Now for the most original photo we've ever had on weather. Taken last Friday evening, this was the new moon on Eid. Thanks, Joseph Hing, this shot brings back pleasant thoughts of all the yummy sweets and savories I've eaten today. That's it from me. Till the next great photo, stay safe and stay smiling.
Thanks so much for that, Genevieve. Tonight's top stories. Prime Minister Vorenge Bainimarama has opened the Climate Change Summit in Nandi, saying polluting nations need to take action now. Announcements expected soon on the overseas registration of voters and code of conduct provisions leading up to elections. And QVS student appears in court charged with arson. To the poll question now. Results now from our last opinion poll question. Should overseas players be allowed to participate in local tournaments? Only 37% said yes. This week's question, who should be held responsible for the latest rugby protests? FRU, unions or teachers? Visit our FBC website to take part. Remember to send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj. That's news tonight. Until tomorrow, good night.
सूरज की पहली किरण के साथ दिन की शुरुआत कीजिए। सुबह का मंगल प्रभात आपको शुभ हो। सुबह सुबह हो खुशियों का मेला, ना लोगों की परवाह ना दुनिया का झमेला। पंछियों का संगीत हो और मौसम अलबेला। मुबारक हो आपको ये खूबसूरत सवेरा। हर सोमवार से लेकर शुक्रवार तक सुबह 6 से लेकर 9 बजे तक शामिल रहें रेडियो FBC पर हम सफर में रविंद्र सिंह के साथ।
Isambul binaka, nadhango wadi soni dalai, nama kio mani wasini ngono borota kina lali ne kabi, mai na tolu kina bitu, ena moni dingina porombuka, ena mbula FM, na bandu ena serre.